So you're Kenneth Ferguson from
Yes.
the West Wirral constituents for the 2024 UK general election.
I've been involved previously with the Brexit Party for a few years, but I've never had any aspirations to be a politician. I've never wanted to be a politician. I don't think I really like politicians very much. But here I am, because when I looked at the prospects for Wirral West in the general election, the only possibility was to vote for more of the same desperate stuff that we've had for the last 15 years, or possibly vote for something that could well be a good deal worse. So I felt it was important to stand for election to give the people of Wirral West the opportunity to vote for change, to vote for something different.
So what do the Reform Party offer that is different to the likes of Conservative and Labour and Liberal Democrats?
Well, we offer a lot that's different. For example, we offer a completely different economic policy. We have a policy whereby we're going to raise the tax thresholds from the current £12,500 per annum up to £20,000 per annum, which will take 7 million people out of tax entirely. The top rates will be raised from 50% to 70%, and the idea is that what we want to do is to make work pay again, because we've got to the stage whereby it's hardly been worth people's time to work, and indeed, because of that, we've got 5.5 million people who have working age in the UK who are not working, and that's a disgrace. Well, I mean, in terms of employment, we've got pretty much full employment at the minute. The problem is that we haven't got enough people to do the jobs that need to be done. We have a huge problem with demographics in this country, because we have a population which is getting older and older, and we have a birth rate which is currently below replacement level. So we've only got about 1.7 people being born for every 2 at the moment. If you look back a few years, there were 8 working people were needed to pay for one pension. Latterly, it's been down to 2 people working to pay 1 pension, and in the long term, that's unsustainable. So whilst the Reform Party is known for wanting to put a stop to net migration, we do still need some migration, because we need to have people coming in, but it needs to be smart migration. We need to get the people in that we want.
Okay, now some people may link, because of Nigel Farage, the UK Independence Party to the Reform Party. Is it the same party? Is it slightly different agenda? And what are the differences between UKIP?
In terms of agenda, it's not radically different. UKIP was a party, it was really a pressure group which was devised to get us out of the EU, which Nigel was very successful in achieving. But it didn't have a huge range of policies beyond that. The idea was that if we got out of the EU, everything else would sort itself. So Reform has evolved from that into a party with a more diverse range of policies, and it's now got policies in virtually every area. Still, the main driver, of course, still is the fact that we do have this population explosion. In 2019, we stood aside in 300 and odd seats in order to give the Tories a majority, because Boris Johnson promised us that if we did that, he would get Brexit done properly. Now, he let us down very badly, and in the time that he was in office, he didn't do anything. So we really felt betrayed at that, which is why in the current election there's no prospect of us standing aside. We want to sort the Tories out.
Okay, what about the likes of trades personnel and tradespeople? Because I've certainly noticed that over the last 20, 30, 40 years, the amount of people coming out of school going straight into a tradesman sort of work has vastly diminished. And so you're saying before about this lack of people. I see a lack of people who are good tradesmen to do the work that we need to do. And that expands even to the fact of people, in general, doing less DIY, less fixing of things, and more buying instead of repairing. So how does Reform kind of help with growing the youth and giving them trades that they can build on and make a living out of in their future?
Yep, that's an excellent point. I mean, when I went to university back in the 1970s, and at that time around about 5% of the population went to university. Latterly, it's been around 50%. And the ones that have been going to university have been doing courses which have not given them any greater sellability into the market in terms of work than when they went in. So you've had a load of people coming out of university after sometimes 4 years and then being no further forward in terms of working. And as you rightly say, the jobs that we need to do are trades jobs and all sorts of jobs. And there are plenty of fantastic opportunities at that. But we need to have a proper apprenticeship scheme. We need to encourage people to not go to university if it doesn't suit them, and to take these places up.
Yeah, I've certainly noticed a lot less apprenticeship opportunities around. Certainly my lad was trying to get an apprenticeship and things, and there was less of them, and the ones that were taken on, there was less quantities being took on. And certainly when I had an apprenticeship, there was plenty at the time. Years prior to me, there was a lot more. So apprenticeship levels have dropped and dropped and dropped. So is that one thing reform would do, is encourage youngsters coming out of school to go into trades. With trades, of course, we're talking about plumbers and electricians and real people.
When we were in the EU, we were in the Schengen Agreement. So everybody in the whole of Europe, and then when we took in Poland and various other Eastern European countries, where the standard of living was so much lower than us. So all of these people were very much encouraged to come here and to work, which was fine. But what it meant was that there was no requirement then for our own people to go into these jobs and to earn money at them. And combined with that, they changed the system of funding for the universities. So they went on to these student loans, and they set them at £9,000 a year. Now that money then meant it was in the poor university's interest to set up courses, to get as many people in to do the courses, because the money was there for them. Well, look. In my view, Britain is great. It's not a question of we don't need to make Britain great. We need to keep Britain great, and there are big threats to doing that at the minute. And I think our strategy is that we will do as well as we can in this election, but I don't expect to win it by any stretch of the imagination. But what I do want to do is to have enough of a bridgehead into Westminster, whereby we have a starting point there. And my view is that with the Labour government, who will almost certainly get in at the next election, that in 5 years' time, if you think things are bad now, they're going to be an awful lot worse. And at that point, people will make a choice to say, we've had enough of this, we need to change.
So long term, you may be thinking Conservative, it's probably going out because people have had enough of that in general. And then the next choice people think, although there are plenty of choices, is Labour. And then in 5 years' time, then people may think that has been a bad decision. Yeah. So therefore, Conservative and Labour have gone off the radar. Who's left?
That's right. That's exactly right.
So you want to build reform, not just now, but over the next 5 years to be a real challenger then.
That's the strategy, and it's the same strategy in Wirral West. I want to build a constituency party here so that in 2 years' time, when the local elections come, we've got a good ground game to fight the elections, because not only does the country need reform, Wirral Borough Council badly needs reform, possibly more so. I mounted a campaign for there when they were implementing the 20 mile an hour scheme, whereby we went round and stood with the yellow boards on roundabouts, and the amount of support we got was fantastic. And in fact, they did 2 surveys, the second of which showed them that 93% of the people surveyed didn't want 20 mile an hour schemes. And yet I sat at the council meeting where they said, oh, we're going to ignore that, we're just going to go ahead anyway.
Yeah, we've actually covered a video on 20 mile an hour.
Have you?
On the Wirral as well, yes. We'll put that as a link for people down in the description as well. Yeah, how can I put it?
Can I explain where the 20 mile an hour comes from? Because this is quite important and it's one of our main policies. The driver behind the 20 mile an hour scheme is something called net zero. So there's a net zero policy whereby we're trying to reduce carbon emissions to zero by 2030. And that has all sorts of that then is cover for all sorts of things. 20 mile an hour per scheme was one of them, which was a nonsensical one, because in fact if you drive at 20 miles an hour you actually use more fuel than you do if you drive at 30.
That's exactly what we covered. Yeah, you're in a lower gear.
Yeah,
So therefore
and the
your revs are higher.
emissions are greater. It's all bad.
Yeah.
So it's nonsensical, but so much of net zero is nonsensical. The fact that they're suggesting that we can all be driving electric cars by then, that there'll be no more petrol or diesel cars by 2030, it's just nonsense. There's not enough electricity in the country to do that. So it's an ideology. It's comes from the climate change agenda, but what happens as usual is when an ideology like that meets up with reality, reality wins and the ideology falls, and that's what's going to happen with this.
I was speaking to Jane Turner, one of the Green Party candidates, and I asked her about what's the Green Party's view on electric cars from a meme that I saw, which had a petrol engine car which was internal combustion, an electric car which was labelled as external combustion, because its majority of power from electricity is still powered by fossil fuels or nuclear, and of course the mining of lithium for the batteries. And of course she was saying that it doesn't matter if you think of climate change is happening or not. What is an absolute fact is that all the stuff that we're taking out of the ground is going to run out one day. And so she was saying that electric cars isn't the answer. The better. But of course what the Greens want to do is bring in a completely different philosophy into transport. Ultimately of not having a lot less and less cars on it. But even they agree that electric cars is not the final solution.
No, it definitely isn't. And I mean, not only that, again, part of the net zero thing is that the price of energy has got so high that virtually the whole of the UK has been deindustrialised. So we have no steel production. Everything that we do, all the fuel that we use has to be imported, because we're not allowed to drill our own oil in the North Sea. We're not allowed to frack the shale gas under our feet. So all of the energy has to be imported, and it makes it hugely expensive, which is why all the bills have gone up. The green energy is not there. The wind power is fine, but then when it stops, you've got to go back and fire up a gas power station, which is very expensive. So it just doesn't work. So what we're going to have, if you talk about the car industry, if we were to go to electric cars by 2030, virtually all of the electric cars are made in China. So our car industry would be decimated. It wouldn't exist anymore, and we'd be importing all these cars from China.
Does Reform want to invest in bringing this back to the UK instead of importing it? Having the steel here, creating our own energy here and things like that, instead of importing it, making us more self-sufficient.
Yes, absolutely. Energy is one of the crucial things whereby we need to get back to granting licenses for people to drill in the North Sea and to take oil out, and we need to start to explore the possibility of fracking. There's huge amounts of energy under Lancashire, in fact, and there's plenty of energy to be going on with. And I'm not saying that we never try to transform into a greener environment, but we can't do it at anything like the kind of pace that they're trying to set, because it will be ruinous for us. The other thing is that on the climate change, if you look at it, whatever you think about the climate change, however sceptical you are about the impetus for it, if you look at the net zero thing, we in the UK produce about 1% of world emissions. The amount of carbon in the atmosphere is 0.04%, and about 0.3% of that is man-made. So by the time you take 0.4% or 0.3%, the chances of anything that we can do in the UK having any influence on the climate is minuscule. While we're making ourselves poor through this net zero agenda, China's opening, I think it's four coal-fired power stations every week, opening them.
Yeah.
So all we're doing is exporting our carbon emissions. We're not stopping them.
Yeah, it's like that thing that says, China, carbon production, thousands of jet aircraft in the air at the same time, but my Vauxhall Astra is the main problem here. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy. As I say, we've got such a tiny, and in fact, I mean, our emissions have gone down hugely in the UK. We've been successful in getting them down. But as I say, still, we're only responsible for a tiny fraction. But what they say is, well, we've got to lead. We've got to signal our virtue by saying that we're going to lead the attack on climate change. But the problem is nobody follows us.
Yeah. So as the voting day approaches, as when is July 4th? July 4th approaches, Independence Day.
Yep.
Is that relevant? But what would you say to the people of West Wirral and giving them advice of how they should declare their vote?
Well, I mean, as I say, I'm almost certain Labour will get in Wirral West, and I don't think there's anything much we can do about that. But if you're looking for change, I mean, as I say, we gave the Conservatives this 80-seat majority in 2019. They had absolute power. They could have done anything with it, and they have messed the thing up so badly because the living standards of people now are actually lower than when they took office. And so if we want to protect living standards and so on, we need to change. And the only real change on offer is Reform UK.
So, well, good luck in the forthcoming election then.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.